We bid you welcome, you who come with weary spirits seeking rest, who come with troubles that are much too big with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, you who come with hope in your heart, who come in anticipation, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, you who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, you who join with us as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in these people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Hank Peirce, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. It is so good to have you all here. My pronouns are he, him, and his. The first thing I want to let you know is that I bring greetings from the wonderful folks at Brooksby Village. I was able to go and preach there this past Wednesday. It was great. There were like 20 people in this sanctuary that's built for like 250, and most people were watching us on their closed circuit television, but it really was great. It was great to be there, great to see them. They send their greetings to you. I have a question for you. The Reading Food Pantry the Reading clergy has run it for a number of years, and we are looking to put together a new board of directors. So if you have had any interaction with a Reading Food Pantry, or if you are interested in doing so, please let me know. Whether you've worked there, volunteered there, been a client, from any point of view, let me know, because we'd love to hear from you. All right, that's the last thing I want to tell you. Oh, the last thing I want to tell you is just to remind you that next week, set your clocks ahead. I know, it's that time already. It is indeed. Now for our chalice lighting.
In the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. We are Unitarian Universalists, the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands.
Good morning. Welcome to this week's virtual Sunday service. My name is Charlene Reynolds-Santo. I'm a member of the Worship Arts team. Together, we gather with the hope of creating a welcoming environment to nurture and explore individual spirituality, to build a committed and loving community, and to help heal this broken world. If you're here with us for the first time, please take a look at our webpage to find out more information about UUCR. If you're watching this service during its initial broadcast on March 7th at 10 a.m., please join us for fellowship after the service. This is a great way to keep connected and to check in with one another in our church community. The link to the Zoom meeting can be found in the weekly UUCR newsletter. Regardless of what God, Goddess, Spirit, or the divine means to you, you are welcome here. No matter your religious background or spiritual beliefs, you are welcome here. Please know that you belong here. Even if it's just for the next hour, although we hope for longer, you belong here, and we are grateful that you are here to share this service with us today. Welcome to this morning's Sunday service.
Good morning. My name is Tracy Sobchak, and I am from the Pledge Drive team. Our annual Pledge Drive is now underway. In light of all that has happened this past year, we have chosen resilience, rebirth, and renewal as our Pledge Drive theme. The annual pledge drive is our main source of income, and each year we ask every member and friend of our church community to make a pledge for the coming year to sustain the work of our church. Like so many things this year, the pledge drive will be done online. Instead of mailing a pledge packet to you, we have sent out a kickoff email to everyone. It has links to all of the pledge drive information, including the brochure and letter, and you'll also find a link there to submit your pledge online. If you haven't received your email yet, you can find all the information on our website. Look at the top right of the homepage and click on Donate Pledge Drive, and then click on Annual Pledge Drive. Our goal this year is to have all of our members and friends make a pledge and to raise $385,000. That's what we need to balance our budget this year, so we can focus our energy on reopening our church, reestablishing our programs, and living out our mission in new and exciting ways. We are asking you to please submit your pledge online by Commitment Sunday, which is March 21st. Every pledge, large and small, will be gratefully received. And now I'd like to turn things over to George Marinakis. George is going to talk about why UUCR is so important to him and why he and his wife Molly pledge every year.
Hello, my name is George Marinakis, and I am a long-standing member of the church. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and it is truly a pleasure for me to share my story with you this morning. In 1994, my wife Molly and I moved to our current home in Reading with our 5-year-old son Nick and our 2-year-old daughter Leah. Like many young families, Molly and I realized we needed to find a spiritual home for our family, so we decided to visit a number of churches in the area. The first church we decided to visit was, of course, UUCR. As it turned out, we didn't wind up going to any of the other churches because in our first visit, we felt we had found a place to consider as our religious home. Molly and I were equally delighted by the sermon of Reverend Jane Rzepka. Her captivating message and refreshing sense of humor left us feeling stimulated and intellectually engaged. Molly was also impressed by the talented choir, and our children seemed pleased with their time in the religious education classes. We soon learned about the church, and we decided with confidence that UUCR would be a wonderful place for our family. As the early years passed, Molly and I became active in many aspects of church life. Molly quickly joined the choir, and we both became involved in religious education through teaching and mentoring. I joined a number of committees over the years, such as long-range planning, framing our future, and the ministerial search team. At different time periods, Molly and I both joined the governing board. Each of these experiences allowed us to become more connected to others in the church, and we eventually developed deep connections with a number of members who are today among our closest friends. Admittedly, while I have been involved in many aspects of the church over the years, my involvement waned at times due to various circumstances in my life and career. However, when I was ready to return, I was always confident I would be welcome back and would find a place in the church where I could resume my connections, meet new members, and participate in new initiatives. Then, the pandemic hit almost a year ago. This new dark reality forced me, like many of you, to face unexpected challenges. Fortunately, I found a sense of comfort as I listened to virtual services that Molly turned on each Sunday. It also helped to maintain our contacts with our closest church friends. I particularly enjoyed our weekly outdoor and socially distanced summer gatherings with friends of the church. All of these experiences helped me to reconnect with the larger church community. During this pandemic, I have found myself impressed once again by our resilient community and amazed by our leadership teams who have found ways to keep us connected and our programs thriving as well as possible with the support of Reverend Hank and our talented and committed staff. I rejoined the governing board this past fall and recently offered assistance to the property committee to address much needed improvements in our church campus. Today, I am feeling hopeful and energized by the continued strength of our church. We have weathered this dark year and are preparing for an eventual return to some form of an in-person community, perhaps one that allows our growing use of technology to keep us better connected, whether we are in church or in our homes. I am also feeling renewed with a sense of optimism, knowing that with our combined efforts of time, talent, and financial contributions, we can continue to do what we have always done to nurture our liberal religious values, strengthen ourselves through service, and continue our efforts to be engaged in important issues outside our small community. Molly and I will be moving to Rockport in the summer. While we are moving physically from our Reading home, we will remain deeply involved with UUCR. We are committed to increasing our pledge by 5% this coming year. Molly is looking forward to her continued participation in the choir and in other committees, and I will remain active on the governing board and in other ways in the church. Looking back, we are certain we made the right decisions for ourselves and our family to join this church a quarter century ago. We now look forward to continuing to be part of this vibrant and loving community. Thank you for listening, and please stay connected.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Cunningham, the music director here at the UU Church of Reading. And for this morning's opening hymn, we're going to sing I'm So Glad I'm Here. It's written by Elizabeth Mitchell, who's a Smithsonian Folkways recording artist based in the New York City area. And this song may be familiar to many of you. It's got really fun lyrics. I'm so glad I'm here today. I'm going to sing while I'm here today, and joy brought me here. So sing along with me some of the reasons why we might come to an online service like this one this morning. I'm so glad I'm here, so glad I'm here, so glad I'm here today. I'm so glad I'm here, so glad I'm here, so glad I'm here today. I'm gonna sing while I'm here, sing while I'm here, sing while I'm here today. Sing while I'm here, sing while I'm here, sing while I'm here today. You know, joy brought me here, joy brought me here, joy brought me here today. Joy brought me here, joy brought me here, joy brought me here today. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you to our dear Murdoch family for lighting our chalice and for leading our children's affirmation this morning. I'm Sally Lieberman, and my pronouns are she and her. We're going to wonder about commitment. Commitment is what happens when we decide something is important enough for our attention, for our time, for our care, and for our learning. In our church, we've decided a lot of things are important. And we make time to learn together about what it is to be human and to be a human being living on planet Earth. We make time to learn about religion, ours and those of other people. Religion is a set of ideas that helps people make sense of how we got onto this planet, how we live while we're here, what makes sense, what feels good about living, what's safe about living, and what is right, what feels good, how we can be helpful and have fun, live together in community with our fellow humans. When we wonder about where we came from, we discover that people have lots of different ideas about that. There are perhaps as many ideas as there are people. We know that it is nicer and easier and sometimes more comfortable to wonder about things with others in community. We have also decided that it is very important to learn about our bodies and our relationships and the way that we express ourselves and our love in this world. We have a program called OWL. It stands for Our Whole Lives, and we dedicate time to that for children, teens, and even our adults as we go through life living and loving and learning so much more about who we are every day. And we also know that it is so important to understand our own place in the order of systems, especially when we have a chance to make the world a safer, fairer place for all people. And we dedicate time and learning to becoming anti-racist people, anti-racist families, and to being an anti-racist religious community. We are so glad that you will be part of what we do together. Because, you see, when we come together, we learn from one another, and we share those commitments toward what we know and value as important. As we go forward, let's take our open minds, our loving hearts, and our helping hands and fully explore all that we know is important.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie McQuaige-Lucas, and my pronouns are she and hers. I invite you to join with me in prayer. Spirit of life, in whom we live, move, and have our being, we find you in the glory of the night sky and of the deep sea. We find you in the bonds that bind us, heart to heart. It is more difficult to find you in anxiety, in overwhelm, or in pain. Help us to trust that in those things, too, we might find you. We are grateful today for the beauty of the earth, for the sunshine of the lengthening days. We are grateful for community, for connections, for being able to be together this morning. Life surrounds us, and love moves between us, sacred and holy. We come today as dreamers and seekers of the holy. Open our minds and our hearts so that we might know it is always among us. Today we lift up in prayer Carolyn Grace, hospitalized this week, and we also lift up Bill and others who love her. We lift up in prayer the people of Jackson, Mississippi, still without water following intense winter weather. We hold in our hearts many people, perhaps named, perhaps not, and here we pause for a moment to lift them too in our prayers. Amen, and may it be so.
Since November of 2019, UUCR has been donating half of the funds received in the collection plate each week to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. We do not do this because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of March is Helping Our Troops. This is an all-volunteer, nonprofit that's based in Stoneham. It was created by 2 Vietnam veterans in November of 2006. Helping Our Troops supports service members from Massachusetts who are serving overseas by sending monthly care packages, along with taking care of special forces, combat support medical units, military hospital or medevac units, and chaplains of any denomination. Since its inception, this nonprofit has supported over 42,000 soldiers and shipped out over 150 tons of goods to troops serving around the world. Helping Our Troops' mission is not political. It's solely to send love and support to our local soldiers while they are away from home by sending them personal care items like snacks, drinks, and games. This organization is supported by local community groups, businesses, schools, grocery stores, and churches. Helping Our Hands was nominated as our Share the Plate recipient by Mary Binderman. Their mission reminds her of how her family would send care packages to her twin brother Larry, who gave his life for our country while serving in Vietnam. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to our virtual Sunday Share the Plate offering to support our troops overseas, to honor all men and women in our congregation who have served our country, and to support the mission of UUCR. Thank you.
The choir will sing together today, virtually. Beautiful piece entitled On the Day We Are Together Again. It was written a year ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, in April 2020, by a young folk musician based in the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, Siri Undlin. And she captures the feelings of missing people and hoping for the best and cheering on healthcare workers and looking forwards to seeing and being with each other again. We thank Will White for his expertise in putting together our voices and videos for this lovely song, On the Day We Are Together Again.
On the day we are together again, on the day we are together again, I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end. On the day we are together again, we will share the same table again. We will share the same table again. I'll pass you the salt, the candlelight will mend when we eat at the same table again. Someday we will go back to church. Someday we will go back to church. May we be among people who respect our worth. Someday we will go back to church. I will help the strangers I meet. I will help the strangers I meet. It is possible to get back on our feet. I will help the strangers I meet. Ooh, ooh.
Today's reading is Dead Stars by Limón. Out here, there's a bowing, even the trees are doing. Winter's icy hand at the back of all of us. Black bark, slick yellow leaves, a kind of stillness that feels so mute it's almost in another year. I'm a hearth of spiders these days, a nest of trying. We point out the stars that make Orion as we take out the trash, the rolling containers, a song of suburban thunder. It's almost romantic as we adjust the waxy blue recycling bin until we say, man, we should learn more about new constellations. And it's true. We keep forgetting about Antilla, Centaurus, Draco, Lucretia, Hydra, Lyra, Lynx. But mostly we're forgetting we're dead stars too. My mouth is full of dust. I wish to reclaim the rising, to lean in the spotlight of streetlight with you, toward what's larger than us, toward how we were born. Look, we are not unspectacular things. We've come this far. We've survived this much. What would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? What if we stood up with our synopsis and flesh and said no? No to the rising tides. Stood for the many mute mouths of the sea, of the land. What would happen if we used our bodies to bargain? For the safety of others, for Earth. If we declared a clean night, if we stopped being terrified, if we launched our demands into the sky, made ourselves so big people could point to us with arrows they make in their minds, rolling their trash bins out after all this is over.
Paul and Joan were new to the church. They had just moved to Quincy and they bought an old house and they were very busy fixing it up. One day at coffee hour, they came up to me. They said they had a question. Now, why they had a question for me, I don't know. I was just the student minister there in Quincy, which maybe was because I just had a lot more time than the settled minister had, but they came with me to a question. They explained to me that, after doing all this work on the inside and the outside of their house, they decided to actually look at their yard, which I guess was also a mess. And they explained to me that as they started cleaning out their backyards, they found a statue of Jesus over in one corner, which had been all overgrown with weeds and vines. They asked me, what should we do with it? I was confused at their question. What do you mean? I asked. They said, what should we do with this statue that we don't want to keep? And then they said, where do we put God? And then we all laughed. You see, they didn't want to be disrespectful by just tossing this statue in the dumpster. What a lovely sentiment. What a wonderfully Unitarian Universalist sentiment. This couple, new to our faith, wanted to make sure that there wasn't some religious rite or prayer that needed to be said or performed. I assured them that it was okay. After all, the people who had moved had just left the statue back there. Now, these fine folks were concerned with what to do with a statue of somebody else's God. what happens to us when we put down the God of our past? You know, when we leave those religious beliefs that we used to hold on to behind us. Beliefs that hopefully we don't leave for someone else to deal with, like an abandoned statue, though I'm sure that happens too. In fact, I know that happens too. There are plenty of folks who think that they have left their previous beliefs behind them, only to trip over them at another time. It's hard sometimes to leave one set of beliefs behind and then replace them with something else without, residue is not the right word, but it's the word that comes to me right now, without the residue of those previous beliefs, or at least the lenses from that previous beliefs still being there. I'll use myself as an example. So I grew up in a very, very humanist-centered Unitarian Universalist church. Humanism being one of our faith traditions that places humanity at the center of our worldview, unlike theism, which puts God at the center of a worldview. Now, like I said, I grew up in a very humanist church and was a humanist for most of my childhood. Though later in life, I chose to believe in God. Now, that God, in my experience, tends not to be some planet-creating being, but instead a force that unites me with others in this world and maybe in the next. And I really think that the way God works in the world is through us. All of which led the Reverend Sheldon Bennett, who was who's the minister I worked with when I was an intern. Reverend said when I asked him once, he said, "How would you describe me theologically?" He thought for a moment and he said, "You are a theist with a humanist soul." That sounds like a good sermon title, doesn't it? But maybe the question that we should ask right now is, why do our beliefs change? And is that okay? The worship theme this month, for the month of March, is commitment. And changing your beliefs, whether you do it quickly or over time, is about changing what it is you have aligned yourself to. For most of us, we changed our beliefs, the ideas that we had been committed to, because they no longer fit us. They might be fine for others, and we certainly support other people in their own spiritual growth and journey, but for you or for me, the old ideas just rub us the wrong way. So we have to do something. We have to reject them. Walt Whitman told his readers that they should re-examine all that you have been told in school or church or in any book, and dismiss whatever insults your soul. And your very flesh shall be a great poem and have the richest fluency, not only in its words, but in its silent lines of the lips and face, and between the lashes of your eyes, and in every motion and joint of your body. Dismiss all that insults your soul. You see this in the core. This is the core of our Unitarian Universalist faith, isn't it? It's not just about dismissing old ideas, but the fact that for each of us, our personal experience matters. Probably more than any other factor for Unitarian Universalists. It's not scripture, it's not tradition, it's not cultural norms of politeness. It's about personal experience. It's the worlds that you and I have experienced that shape our beliefs. And how you have experienced the world points you in a direction. In 1838, Ralph Waldo Emerson gave an address to the graduating class at Harvard Divinity School and used a line that every Unitarian Universalist clergy person has had to memorize from that time onward. And it epitomizes where every one of us in our spiritual searches begin. He said, "Cast behind you all conformity and acquaint thyself at first hand with deity. Look to it first and only." Cast behind you all conformity and acquaint thyself at first hand with deity. Look to it first and only. This is the DNA of Unitarian Universalist theology right there. Go your own way. Don't believe what someone else told you about the world or life or the sacred or of God. Go out and experience it. Believe in what you have seen, what you have experienced first and foremost. And of course, be open to new ideas and new experiences, right? Once we remove the lenses that others have placed over our eyes, we are able to understand that our experiences are valid and they're informative. And we can't just stop there, because we next need to understand that each of our experiences are not universal experiences, right? This is a really important thing for us to understand, that first, our experiences are valid, but our experiences are not the only experiences in the world. This is why the Transcendentalists were so interested in the writings of the world's religions, which had been dismissed as not being important to Western culture. They said, wait a minute, let's not be so arrogant as to think that all of the world's wisdom ended up only with us, right? Feminist teachings later reminded us that women's perceptions and meanings and experiences should also be taken seriously and valued, because they had been absent in much of the mindset and culture that we were living in. And from there, it has allowed so many of us to understand that what has been centered in our culture has been the experiences of straight white men. This is why we've been told to decenter our whiteness, right? Our personal experiences are the first step in opening our eyes to the reality of the world around us. Maybe this is why the Black Lives Matter protests, the police killings of George Floyd this summer were so big and so impactful. Maybe our personal experiences of suffering through this pandemic gave us a window to see how others are really living, to see the suffering of others, perhaps really for the first time. Does seeing that make us more compassionate and more justice-minded? You know, let's think about how this pandemic and our experiences of it has and will continue to change our beliefs. Each of us are experiencing this pandemic in our own way, in part due to the environments that we live in. Some of us have been able to work from home, and others haven't and have had to go into work. And of course, many have not been able to work at all. Some of us see our homes as our castles where we're working from home. But for others, their home is a place of isolation and loneliness. And still for others, it is a place of conflict and maybe even fear. Some of us have had our vaccines. Others have spent hours after frustrating hour trying to sign up. And others, perhaps the thought of getting this vaccine is frightening. And maybe they're just suspicious of it. All of this pandemic is causing all of us to have different experiences. And each of us will be changed by this pandemic, so we shouldn't be surprised if our beliefs, even our deepest held beliefs, are changed and change as well. What we are going through in this pandemic, in this last year, has been traumatic. It has and will change how we understand ourselves, our relationships, our communities. It'll change our understanding of the divine. What will change for you? I don't know. A few weeks ago, the Reverend Laura Everett, who's the president of the Massachusetts Council of Churches, she asked a number of clergy from across the religious spectrum in Massachusetts what they thought faith would look like post-COVID. Here are some of their thoughts. Maybe they express some of what you're thinking too. What will your faith look like post-COVID? There will be a push towards authenticity, be it baking bread, doing yoga, or daily prayer. Empathetic. People will be more empathetic. Things will be more solemn for a while, and perhaps will be a greater gratitude for the beauty around us. There will be more humility. This pandemic shattered the idea that we are masters of ourselves. More tender, tinged with a greater awareness of loss and a greater appreciation of how precious this all is. I would hope to have a faith that's more shaped by the reality that we are all interconnected and we all need one another. Authenticity, compassion, humbleness, awareness of loss, appreciation of the beauty of the world, how much we need one another. Do those sound right to you? Are those the beliefs that you think will be changed? I'm sure this list could get really long. I'm sure you have your own ideas of the things that you want to, that have changed for you. But, this is a good place to start. Authenticity, compassion, humbleness, awareness of loss. And a realization of how much we need one another. So how can we be more compassionate, more humble, more real, more interconnected? How do we do this? Because we can say these things, but they're just words unless we can create conditions that will help us make them real. How can we show our commitment to these new ideas, these beliefs? One friend of mine commented on the question that Reverend Everett asked, and she said that maybe the question is not what will faith look like post-COVID, but what will faithfulness look like? I think the answer is that we need not to avoid the pain and the discomfort of this time. If we ignore it, if we pretend that once everyone has had their shots, everything will go back to the way it was 365 days ago. If we believe that, then I think we're doomed, right? We need to lean into the pain. We need to acknowledge the trauma of loss that we have experienced. We need to center those people, the experiences of those people for whom the loss has been so much greater than our own. There's the poor, the homeless, the exploited. If we did this, if we centered them, if we leaned into the pain, how much could we accomplish? At the end of Ada Limon's poem, she asks, what would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? What if we stood up with our synapse and flesh and said no to the rising tides? Stood for the many mute mouths of the sea, of the land? What would happen if we used our bodies to bargain for the safety of others, or earth? If we declared a clean night, if we stopped being terrified, if we launched our demands into the sky, made ourselves so big people could point to us with arrows that they make in their minds while they're rolling out their trash bins after all this is over. What if we showed our commitment to our beliefs in such a way that it helped not only to heal us, but it helped us to heal the world? What if? I'm game. Are you?
Hi, I'm Linda Snow Doxer. I'm the office administrator at this church. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. This week, in our congregational life, we have our standard online offerings, as well as one special one that I wish to invite you to. On Wednesday, March 10th, please join me and our liberal ladies for a gathering at 10:30 a.m., where I have been invited to share my approach to my Jewish faith. Through prayer, music, traditions, and history, I will share what my religion and my Jewish community mean to me. I hope you'll be able to join us. Today, we invite you to join us for our social hour immediately after this service, and at noon in the same Zoom room, we will have our first March Adult Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression conversation. Today we are discussing a portion of the recent UUA Commission on Institutional Change report called Widening the Circle. This section addresses the relationship between our theology and our principles and our work for justice, and it includes suggestions for ongoing work in that area. The link to that report is in this week's newsletter, and another discussion on this will be held next Monday, March 15th at 7 p.m. If you're new to UUCR, please consider joining Melissa today for our new visitor welcome after this service. The link is below this video. Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life.
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. One day soon, friends, we will be together. We will worship together. We'll have meetings together, drink coffee, share meals. We will greet one another, enjoy, and perhaps someday soon we will hug one another again. May the time we shared this morning sustain you. May you hold in your heart the unshakable conviction that we need not touch nor break bread to be bound together in love. May you carry with you the knowledge of that love, that you might go forth into the world renewed. Go in peace.